We'll make you scream tonight. Korean Mafia twins Manhood couldn't stand until they meet Abiola. Seoul's midnight skyline shimmered beneath Abiola's taxi window as she rode toward the Hakdo Group's private tower. She adjusted her blazer, exhaling slowly. This presentation would determine her entire future. A partnership with one of the most powerful corporations in East Asia. What she didn't know was that Hakdo Group's power didn't come from business alone. It came from fear. It came from the twins. Baekhyun and Haekyun. Two men whispered about everywhere from boardrooms to back alleys. Identical faces. Opposite souls. Cold, untouchable, unreachable. Rumors said they couldn't be swayed by beauty, money, or emotion. That they never reacted to anyone. Abiola walked through the marble lobby, ignoring the way guards straightened the moment their eyes fell on her. Her heels echoed sharply as she rode the elevator to the private 62nd floor hall. She pushed the doors open, and everything fell silent. Executives turned. Staff paused mid-sentence. The air changed. But it was the twins' reaction that froze the entire room. The first twin, Baekhyun. At the far end of the table sat Baekhyun, dressed in a midnight black suit tailored like it feared disappointing him. His expression was the definition of unreadable, sharp jaw, cold eyes, presence heavy and controlled. Until Abiola stepped inside. His posture shifted. Barely. But enough that the men beside him stiffened in shock. He inhaled once, sharply, as if something struck him straight in the chest. The second twin, Haekyun. Leaning casually in his chair, Haekyun was the charming one. Warm smiles, lethal dimples, and a voice that usually melted fear like ice. But when Abiola said, "Good evening," Haekyun froze. His lips parted. His fingers curled on the table. He blinked twice as if he didn't trust what he was feeling. He whispered under his breath, "Hyung?" His older brother didn't answer. Baekhyun couldn't take his eyes off her. Abiola takes the room. She walked confidently to the podium, unaware of the chaos she had just caused inside the twins. Her dark skin glowed against the soft gold lighting. Her voice was steady, warm, and commanding. She spoke with the ease of someone who understood who she was, and didn't need validation. Every slide she presented had the room leaning in. Every point she made tightened Baekhyun's jaw. Every sentence that left her lips made Haekyun sit straighter, breath thicker. By the time she ended with, "Thank you for your time," the room was silent for an entirely different reason. The twins' private breakdown. The executives clapped politely, pretending not to see the impossible. Both twins reacting, emotionally. The moment the others stood up to leave, Haekyun leaned closer to his brother. "Haekyun. Hyung, why does my heartbeat hurt?" Baekhyun didn't respond at first. His fingers tapped once against the table, the only sign of his inner chaos. Finally he muttered, "Don't ask me that question." Haekyun's brows knit. "You felt it too?" Baekhyun's stare followed Abiola as she packed her laptop and headed for the elevator. The muscles in his throat tightened. "Yes." His voice was low, unsteady, almost dangerous. "And I don't know what to do about it." Abiola leaves. But they're not done. Abiola entered the elevator, pressing the lobby button, relieved it was over. But as the doors slid shut, she saw it. Both twins watching her through the glass walls of the hall. Both with unreadable faces. Both changed. Her stomach fluttered. The doors closed. But to the twins, that only marked the beginning. They had never reacted. Never felt. Never wanted. Until her. And neither brother was about to ignore that. The elevator hummed softly as it carried Abiola downward. She let out a shaky breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Something about those twins. No. Something about the way they looked at her. It wasn't normal interest. It wasn't flirtation. It was like they were trying to breathe for the first time and she was the oxygen. Abiola shook her head. Business first. Emotions nowhere. The elevator slowed. Then, the doors slid open before reaching the lobby. And Baekhyun walked in. Baekhyun stops the elevator. He stepped inside without a word, his presence filling the small space instantly. He didn't touch her. Didn't stand too close. But the air thickened as if it recognized him before she did. His finger hovered over the button panel. Then he pressed stop. The elevator jerked slightly. Silence swallowed everything. Abiola swallowed. "Is something wrong, Mr. Baekhyun?" His voice was low, smooth but carrying an edge she'd only ever heard in movies. "No." Pause. "Something is confusing." She blinked. "Confusing?" His eyes dragged up her face slowly, not lustful, not inappropriate, but deeply, intensely alive. "You walked into that room," he said, each word controlled like he was forcing himself to stay composed, "and every instinct I have reacted." Her heart punched her chest. "I don't react. Ever. To anyone." The last sentence dropped like a secret he'd never said to another soul. Before she can answer, Haekyun appears. The elevator beeped. The doors slid open again. Haekyeon stood there, chest rising and falling, eyes burning with something he clearly didn't understand. His carefully casual posture was gone. He looked shaken, and focused entirely on her. Hyung, Haekyeon breathed, stepping inside. I couldn't stay upstairs. My mind kept pulling me here. He turned to Abiola. Do you feel this too? Abiola's throat tightened. What exactly am I supposed to feel? Something, Haekyeon whispered. Something electric. Bakyun's jaw flexed. Haekyeon. What? Haekyeon snapped softly. You felt it first. Abiola's eyes widened. Felt what? The twins struggled to stay calm. Haekyeon exhaled shakily, voice trembling with honesty. My heartbeat has been silent for years. I thought it was normal. But the moment you spoke, he placed a hand over his chest. It woke up. Bakyun turned his face away, but his voice betrayed him. When you looked at me, I felt something like impact. Like someone hit me. Inside. Abiola felt her own pulse racing, fighting to remain professional. This is absurd, she whispered. We just met. Bakyun stepped closer. You think we don't know that? Haekyeon's eyes softened. But it doesn't change what happened. The elevator lights felt too warm. Their presence too close. Her breath too unsteady. Abiola fights the pull. I came here to present a contract, she said, trying to steady her voice. Not to be, whatever this is. Haekyeon's lips curled in a wry, almost desperate smile. We know. We're not asking for anything. Bakyun studied her carefully. We just needed to confirm if you felt it too. Abiola hesitated. Did she? Yes. Too strongly. She lied anyway. No. I didn't. Both twins went still. Haekyeon's face fell slightly, not hurt but surprised. Bakyun nodded once, sharp. Very well. He reached for the elevator controls and pressed start. But his voice, low, unreadable, carried something unspoken. This won't go away just because you deny it. The doors open. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Light flooded in. But neither twin moved at first. As Abiola stepped out, Bakyun said quietly, Abiola. She turned. His eyes locked on hers, deep, unreadable, intense. This is only the beginning. Haekyeon stepped beside him, gaze softer but burning just as bright. We'll see you again. Even if you don't plan to. The doors closed. And Abiola stood frozen, pulse pounding, breath tangled in her chest. Something had started. Something she was not ready for. Something they could no longer stop. For 3 days, Abiola tried to pretend nothing unusual had happened. She buried herself in spreadsheets, emails, contracts, anything to quiet the memory of two men staring at her like she was the answer to a question they didn't know they'd been asking. But the harder she tried to forget, the more she replayed their voices. You walked in, and everything changed. My heartbeat woke up. None of it made sense. She shouldn't feel anything. They were Mafia heirs, untouchable, unpredictable, dangerous. She needed space. But the twins had other plans. The unexpected invitation. Late one evening as she locked her office door, her phone buzzed. A known number. Come to Hakdo Tower rooftop. We need to talk. HY. Her breath hitched. HY. Haekyeon. Before she could think, another message arrived. A conversation. Nothing more. We will not touch you. We just need clarity. BY. Her knees weakened. Both twins messaging her, together? She almost said no. But curiosity, or something deeper, pulled her upward. The rooftop elevator required clearance she didn't have. Yet when she stepped inside, it scanned her automatically, as though someone had already granted her access. The ride felt endless. When the doors opened, Seoul's night wind embraced her, cool, clean, and carrying the scent of rain. Strings of warm lights glowed above a rooftop garden she never knew existed. And there they were. Bakyun and Haekyeon, waiting. Bakyun stood by the edge, staring down at the city like he owned every light. Haekyeon leaned against a wooden post, hands in pockets, watching the elevator even before it opened. Their gazes collided with hers instantly. Haekyeon spoke first. Soft. Careful. Thank you for coming. Bakyun's voice followed, low and firm. We weren't going to force you. But ignoring this doesn't make it disappear. Abiola stepped onto the garden floor slowly. What exactly is this? They exchanged a look, a silent conversation between brothers who never needed words. Then Haekyeon approached her. He stopped just close enough for warmth, far enough for respect. Haekyeon's truth. Abiola, he breathed out, rubbing his thumb along his palm like he was calming himself. I don't fall for people. I don't even look twice. His smile was faint, unsure. When you spoke during your presentation, my heart moved. Literally. I felt it beating too fast. I didn't know what that meant at first. Bakyun scoffed quietly behind him. Too fast, he murmured. For me it was worse. Bakyun's confession. He turned around slowly and walked toward her, controlled and deliberate. I felt impact, he said. A shock. Like something inside me woke up and demanded I look at you. As if I didn't have a choice. His eyes held hers with quiet intensity. And I haven't felt anything in years. Not interest. Not attraction. Not even anger. Pause. Until you. Abiola's breath shook. Why are you telling me all this? Bakyun exhaled. Because I don't want to lie to myself. Haekyeon added gently. Or to you. She tries to run from the truth. Abiola stepped back, overwhelmed. This is too much. I'm not what you think I am. You barely know me. Haekyeon took one step closer. Slow, gentle. That's why we're asking for time. Bakyun's voice softened, barely audible. We're not asking you to choose anything. And we're not expecting anything from you. Haekyeon nodded. We just want to understand what happened. Why it happened. With you. And only you. Abiola's heart thudded painfully. She didn't want this. Didn't ask for this. But her voice wavered. And if I say I don't feel anything? The rooftop fell silent. Haekyeon's face dropped for a heartbeat. Bakyun's jaw tightened. But neither stepped back. Instead Bakyun replied. Then we'll believe you. But we won't believe that this ends here. Haekyeon's eyes softened with something raw. Because I've never felt something like this in my life. The silence that changes everything. The wind whipped around them, warm lights flickering overhead. For a moment the world held its breath. Abiola did too. Something in the air. The closeness. The sincerity. The strange, magnetic gravity between them. Felt dangerously real. Finally she whispered. What do you want from me? Both brothers answered at the same time. The truth. Her pulse fluttered. They waited. Her chest rose and fell, fighting words she didn't want to admit. I don't know what I feel. Haekyeon breathed out shakily. Bakyun's eyes softened. That's enough, Haekyeon whispered. For now. Bakyun nodded slowly. We'll figure out the rest. Together. At your pace. Abiola felt her walls crack just a little. And for the first time, she didn't try to repair them. 3 days after the rooftop confession, Abiola's life stopped feeling normal. Nothing felt normal anymore. Every morning, a black car waited discreetly across the street. Every evening, a shadowed figure lingered near her office. Not threatening, not intrusive, just watching. Protecting. She knew exactly who was behind it. But neither Bakyun nor Haekyeon approached her. Not a call. Not a text. Not a single intrusion. Instead, they hovered in her orbit like two storms circling the same gravitational pull. Her. They wanted something deeply. But they were holding themselves back. And somehow, that restraint burned hotter than desire. Bakyun breaks the distance. On the fourth morning, Abiola stepped out of her apartment building and gasped. Bakyun was leaning against the black car hood, dressed in a charcoal suit, arms crossed, looking like he'd been carved from the cool dawn wind itself. He didn't smile. He didn't greet her. He just looked at her. Long, quiet, absorbing her presence like he had been deprived of air and finally found it. What are you doing here? She whispered. His voice was low, calm, but strangely warm. Making sure you got to work safely. She frowned. I never asked for protection. I didn't say you did. His eyes softened barely, a micro-expression, a flicker of vulnerability from a man who didn't know how to show it. You're important. Pause. And I don't lose important things. Her breath stuttered. He opened the door for her, not forcing her inside, just waiting. The gesture was shockingly gentle. Against her better judgment, she got in. As the car pulled away, she felt his gaze lingering on her profile like a quiet confession. Haekyeon brings her the warmth she didn't expect. Later, during her lunch break, Abiola sat on a bench outside her office, staring at her food but not eating. She didn't hear him approach. Haekyeon always moved like he floated. Is that lunch? He asked, peering over her shoulder. Or a decoration? She startled. Haekyeon. How? Why are you here? He grinned, holding out 2 steaming takeout boxes from a famous street food stall. I saw you earlier. You looked tired. So I brought this. She blinked. You watched me earlier? I watch you every day, he said gently. But only from afar. Because you seemed overwhelmed. He sat beside her, close enough for heat but not touching. I don't want to suffocate you, Abiola. I want to be good for you. His voice cracked slightly at the end. Her chest tightened. She'd expected flirtation. Playfulness. But not genuine care. Not this soft, aching honesty. The Mafia threat emerges. That same evening, trouble found her. As she walked toward her apartment, 2 unfamiliar men stepped out of the alleyway. Miss Abiola? One asked. Her stomach tightened. Yes. Before she could blink, one lunged. A strong hand clamped around her arm. But not the attackers. Bakyun appeared out of nowhere, slamming the man against the wall with a snap of bone and a guttural sound that didn't belong in human throats. Haekyun was beside her instantly, pulling her into him, shielding her with his entire body. Don't look, he whispered, voice trembling. But she did. Bakyun's eyes were cold enough to freeze fire as he pinned the groaning attacker to the concrete. His voice was deadly calm. Who sent you? The man spit blood. Nobody. Bakyun pressed his forearm harder against his neck. Wrong answer. Abiola gasped. Bakyun? Stop, please. He froze. Instantly. Her voice had cut through him like a blade. He turned toward her slowly, chest rising and falling, jaw clenched. And the look in his eyes. Pure fear. Not of the attacker, but of scaring her. He released the man immediately. Haekyun kept his arms securely around her, grounding her. The two attackers fled limping into the shadows. The emotional break. Abiola's knees trembled and Haekyun caught her before she fell. Bakyun approached her slowly, like she was something breakable. I didn't mean for you to see that, he said softly. His voice was raw, guilt and panic hidden beneath the surface. Abiola tried to breathe. They came for me. Haekyun held her tighter. Yes. And now we know who they belong to. Bakyun's eyes darkened with something violent but controlled. They won't touch you again. I promise it. Abiola looked between them, voice shaking. Why do you care this much? They exchanged a glance, a silent truth too heavy for words. Haekyun lifted her chin gently. Because losing you. He swallowed hard. Even the thought of it feels like burning. Bakyun stepped closer, voice deep and steady. And we haven't even held your hand yet. Abiola's heart thudded painfully. These men weren't playing with lust. They weren't playing at all. They were falling. Hard. Dangerously. And she felt it too, whether she wanted to or not. The next morning, Abiola woke up feeling like her world had been split open and rearranged overnight. She kept replaying last night. Bakyun's fury. Haekyun's trembling arms around her. Their panic at the idea of her being hurt. She had expected obsession. Intensity. Maybe even dangerous attraction. But not care. Not protectiveness that felt almost sacred. And that scared her more than anything. Hakdo Group Annual Gala. By evening, her inbox buzzed with an unexpected email. You are formally invited to the Hakdo Group Annual Charity Gala. Attendance is required. A private car will arrive at 7 p.m. Her heart dropped. Bakyun. Definitely Bakyun. But the signature at the bottom surprised her. Haekyun. Her fingers tightened around her phone. They were working together again. For her. Against her better judgment, she dressed for the night. A dark emerald gown hugging her curves, soft gold earrings and minimal makeup. She didn't want to impress anyone, but her reflection whispered otherwise. At 7 p.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. She expected a driver. She got both twins standing at her doorway, breath leaving them as they took her in. Their reactions. Haekyun was the first to speak, breathless, voice soft. Abiola, you're beautiful. Bakyun didn't move. Didn't blink. His eyes swept over her once, slowly, with reverence that made her pulse stutter. When he finally spoke, his voice was deeper than usual. This was a mistake. She frowned. What? He exhaled sharply. We should not have come ourselves. We should not have seen you like this. Haekyun shot him a glare. What he means is. I mean exactly what I said. Haekyun sighed. Hyung, don't scare her. Abiola crossed her arms. I'm not scared. Not tonight. Both men paused, and something shifted in their expressions. They weren't dealing with the Abiola who denied her feelings. They were dealing with the Abiola who was starting to face them. Entering the gala. The ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Music played softly. Elite business leaders mingled, exchanging polite smiles while hiding secrets behind their champagne glasses. But the moment the twins entered with Abiola between them, the room changed. Eyes widened. Conversations paused. People whispered. Everyone noticed that the infamous Hakdo twins, cold, untouchable, emotionally unavailable, were flanking a woman like she was royalty. Bakyun stayed close on her right, projecting a silent don't approach aura so strong every man who tried to greet her backed away immediately. Haekyun stayed on her left, sending warm smiles to ease the tension Bakyun created. They balanced her, protected her, claimed her, without touching. And everyone saw it. The spark of jealousy. Halfway through the event, the chairman of another corporation approached Abiola with a too slick smile. Miss Abiola, isn't it? I've heard of your proposal. Perhaps you'd like to join our table, privately? Before she could refuse politely, Haekyeon stepped forward. She's with us. The chairman smirked. I didn't ask you, young man. You should have, Bakyun said, appearing behind him like a shadow. His voice was ice. Because you're talking to someone under our protection. The chairman swallowed. Oh, I see. But surely she can decide for herself. Abiola stepped in front of both twins, head high. I did decide. And the answer is no. The man hesitated, then retreated. But the moment he disappeared into the crowd, Bakyun's gaze snapped to her. Don't take unnecessary risks, he muttered. She glared right back. You mean talking to someone at a gala? You don't know what kind of man he is. And you two do? Yes, Haekyeon said quietly, stepping closer. We know everyone who might want to take advantage of you. Abiola's heart trembled. They weren't jealous because they wanted control. They were jealous because they wanted her safe. Wanted her close. Wanted her. The balcony moment. She slipped out to the open-air balcony to breathe. The night wind tasted like jasmine and tension. Footsteps followed. Haekyeon. He leaned against the railing beside her, watching her profile with soft, melting eyes. Are we overwhelming you? He asked gently. Yes, she admitted. But, not in a bad way. Haekyeon's lips parted, hope flickering. So you're not running from us? I don't know what I'm doing, she whispered. He reached out, slowly stopping inches from her hand. Can I? He didn't finish. He let her decide. Her breath trembled. She didn't take his hand. But she didn't move away either. That was enough for him. His smile was tender, painfully so. Then Bakyun appears. Bakyun stepped onto the balcony, his gaze locking on both of them. His jaw clenched. Jealousy. Pure. Quiet. Deadly. Haekyeon. The younger twin lifted his hand away instantly, stepping back. We were just talking, Haekyeon murmured. I know, Bakyun replied. But you forget something. Haekyeon frowned. What? Bakyun turned to Abiola, his voice low, almost rough. You're not the only one who feels pulled to her. Haekyeon stiffened. And Abiola's heart dropped into her stomach. Bakyun stepped closer. Not touching, not crowding, just letting her feel the gravity he never allowed anyone else near. I don't share well, he said quietly. It's a flaw I'm trying to manage. Haekyeon looked away, biting his lip. Abiola whispered, voice trembling. And what am I supposed to do between the two of you? Both twins answered in perfect unison. Follow your heart. The tension between them had shifted. No longer silent. No longer hidden. The triangle had officially opened. And no one knew where it would lead. Abiola woke to the scent of cedar and clean musk. For a moment she didn't know where she was, only that her cheek rested on something warm and solid. Then she blinked, lifted her head slowly, and found Bakyun sitting beside her on the couch, his hand still protectively resting at her waist. His eyes softened. You're awake. Her heart stumbled. Why, were you watching me sleep? Because you finally look safe, he whispered. We wanted to make sure you stayed that way. Abiola's gaze slid to the doorway, where Haekyeon leaned against the frame, arms crossed, dark eyes fixed on her like she was sunrise breaking over a battlefield. You scared us last night, Haekyeon said, taking slow steps toward her. You went silent on the balcony. Bakyun almost carried you back inside. Bakyun rubbed the back of his neck. You didn't hear me calling your name. I thought you fainted. Abiola swallowed. I didn't faint. I just felt overwhelmed. Haekyeon knelt in front of her, looking straight into her eyes. By what, Abiola? She hesitated. How could she explain it? How could she tell two dangerous, impossibly gorgeous twins that the way they looked at her made her whole chest tighten? Bakyun answered for her, his voice calm but heavy with certainty. By us. Her breath caught. Neither brother smirked. Neither laughed. They just watched her, waiting. Maybe, she whispered. Haekyeon placed a hand on the couch beside her thigh, not touching her but close enough that she felt him. You don't have to be afraid of that. Abiola stared at him. Shouldn't I be? You're both intense. Bakyun let out a low laugh. We are. But with you, we try to soften. Haekyeon shot him a look. Try. Bakyun shrugged. I said try. Doesn't mean I'm good at it. Abiola laughed despite herself. Soft, warm, unplanned. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Both brothers froze, like that sound was something they'd been starved for. Then Haekyeon spoke quietly. Abiola, there's something we need to tell you. Her smile faded. What is it? Bakyun cleared his throat. You know we weren't able to feel anything with women. Not attraction. Not heat. Not even a spark. Until you, Haekyeon finished. The room stilled. Abiola blinked. That doesn't make sense. Haekyeon leaned in, voice low. It doesn't have to. It's simply true. Your voice. Your presence. Even the way you breathe, we feel it. Everywhere. Bakyun exhaled sharply, jaw tight. Before you came into our lives, we thought something was wrong with us. We were numb. Dead inside. Haekyun's tone dropped to a confession. But when you walk into a room, Abiola, everything wakes up. Her pulse throbbed in her ears. They weren't joking. They weren't exaggerating. The realization hit her all at once. She was their weakness. Their trigger. Their undoing. But why me? She whispered. Bakyun stepped closer, fingers brushing her cheek with feather-like restraint. Because you're fire. And we didn't know we were cold, until you warmed us. Haekyun tilted her chin gently so she faced him too. And we don't want the warmth to disappear. The air thickened, charged, intimate. What do you want from me? Abiola asked breathlessly. Both brothers spoke at the same time. You. Her hand shook. Haekyun caught it, threading their fingers together. We don't want to trap you, he murmured. We just want you to understand what you mean to us. Bakyun lowered his head beside her ear, voice deep, velvet soft. And why we said. His breath grazed her skin. We'll make you scream tonight. Her entire body trembled. But instead of pouncing, instead of taking advantage of her shiver, the twins stepped back slightly, giving her space, not pressure. Haekyun's voice was steady. We want everything with you, Abiola. But only when you say you're ready. Bakyun offered his hand, palm up, eyes full of hope he didn't know how to hide. Are you? Abiola stared at their outstretched hands, her heart racing, her breath uneven, her soul pulled in by two magnetic forces she could no longer resist. She didn't speak, but she placed her hands into theirs. Both brothers inhaled sharply, like her touch ignited something raw and alive in their veins. Haekyun whispered, almost reverent. The twins didn't let go of her hands. Bakyun held her left, Haekyun held her right, like she was the center of a storm only they understood. Their palms were warm, their breaths uneven, their eyes fixed on her like she was the one thing in the world they didn't want to risk losing. Abiola's voice was barely steady. What happens now? Haekyun stepped closer, lifting her hand to his lips. Whatever you want. Bakyun mirrored him, brushing his thumb across her wrist. We're not here to force you, only to follow where you lead. But Abiola shook her head slightly. You keep saying that. But neither of you follows. You're always in control. Haekyun's smile curved, soft but dangerous. With everyone else, yes. Bakyun's gaze dipped to her lips. But not with you. Their honesty hit her harder than their touch. Slowly, Haekyun guided her toward the low-lit hall, Bakyun behind her, the tension of their quiet footsteps humming in the air. They led her back into the twins' private suite. Wide windows, velvet shadows, moonlight dripping through like silver fire. As soon as the door closed behind them, the world grew still. Bakyun was the first to move. He reached out, fingers trembling slightly, not from fear but restraint. Abiola, before tonight becomes anything, you need to hear this. She nodded, heart pounding. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. I don't want temporary. I don't want a moment. I don't want a taste. His voice cracked with sincerity. I want you. For real. For as long as you'll let me. Haekyun stepped beside her, cupping her jaw gently and turning her toward him. And I want the same, he murmured. You changed us. You woke things in us we thought were gone forever. His thumb traced her cheekbone, slow and reverent. You don't have to choose between us, Haekyun said quietly. We're not asking for competition. Bakyun added, only connection. Abiola's throat tightened. You too, you're so intense. Haekyun asked. Dangerous. Bakyun guessed, a faint grin tugging at his lips. Honest, she whispered. Both brothers froze, because honesty was something they rarely received, rarely trusted, rarely believed. Bakyun's voice softened. You always see straight through us. Haekyun pressed a hand to his chest. That's why it's you. Why it could only be you. Abiola's breath stuttered. You think I'm special. Haekyun shook his head slowly. Not special. Bakyun stepped in behind her, brushing her hair aside with the gentlest touch she'd ever felt. Essential, he whispered into her shoulder. The word melted her. Then, quietly, carefully, Abiola spoke the truth she'd been avoiding. I'm scared. Haekyun lifted her chin, eyes softened with something raw. We are too. Bakyun's hands settled lightly at her waist. Because we've never felt this. Not once. Not with anyone. Haekyun leaned in, their foreheads nearly touching. And we don't want to lose it. The confession hung in the air, heavy, real, undeniable. Abiola swallowed, voice trembling. Then stay. Just stay with me tonight. Bakyun's breath hitched. Are you sure? She nodded. I've never been more sure. Everything shifted. The twins moved with slow, deliberate grace, like she was something sacred, not fragile but deeply valued. They didn't rush her or overwhelm her. They created a space around her, a cocoon of heat and devotion. Haekyun brushed his knuckles down her arm, murmuring, "Tonight, you don't scream from fear." Baekhyun's lips brushed her ear, breath warm. "You scream because you finally let yourself want us." Abiola's legs weakened. They caught her instantly, one hand on her back, one on her waist, holding her like she was meant to be between them. Haekyun whispered, "Say our names." She did, soft, breathless, emotional. "Baekhyun? Haekyun." Both men inhaled sharply, as if the sound of their names in her mouth shattered something inside them. Baekhyun pressed a kiss to her temple, lingering. "I swear I'll earn every part of that voice." Haekyun kissed her hand, slow and deliberate. "And I'll make sure you never regret giving it to us." The three of them leaned together, foreheads touching, an intimate, powerful circle of warmth. No violence. No mafia threats. No fear. Just connection. And a promise that wouldn't fit into words. In a breathless whisper, Baekhyun asked, "Abiola, do you want this night with us?" Her answer came like fire meeting gasoline. "Yes." Haekyun exhaled a broken sound, half relief, half desire. "Then we'll make sure it's a night you never forget." Moonlight spilled across them, silver and soft, as the twins took her hands and led her toward the center of the room, together. Not to claim her. Not to control her. But to love her the way only two men who had never felt anything before could love.